Let's look at Chicago this weekend. Same number dead, 7 people. Also killed mercilessly in violent rampages that took the lives of innocent human beings, as 36 others were wounded by gunfire in Chicago in just one weekend. This is 15-year-old Devonte Jackson. He was found dead on the street. According to his family, he was shot 6 times with wounds to the leg and his back near his house in Chicago. The police are investigating. His mom says he was a good, smart young man who was going to be a freshman in high school this year. There are no pictures of the other victims from Chicago that we could find anywhere, and that tells you something as well about how much attention gets given to these stories. It only took a few minutes for 2020 Democrat wannabe nominees to pivot to calls to ban guns after the Texas shooting, but not a single one of them mentioned Chicago. My next guest, Heather Mac Donald, spent years on the streets of Chicago, shadowing officers, riding in their vehicles with them as they did their jobs. And she says this very strong quote. She says the mainstream media and Dem establishment don't give a damn about Black lives unless a white police officer is involved. As I said, those are very strong words, and those are her words. And here she is. Mac Donald is a fellow at the Manhattan Institute. She's the author of The War on Cops and the Diversity Delusion. Heather, thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, Martha.
You said that earlier today. Explain to everybody what you mean.
Well, my heart goes out to the victims in Texas, but believe me, Martha, this is a trivial problem, these mass shootings, compared to the daily carnage that's going on in inner cities. If the Democratic contenders really wanted to make a dent in gun violence in this country, they would stop demonizing the cops. They would support proactive policing, because the majority of gun violence is going on in inner cities, and it can be solved by cops. 20 blacks a day are killed. That's more than all white and Hispanic homicide victims combined. This year we've had 142 victims of mass shootings. We're likely to have about 15,000 gun homicide victims. Over half of those will be black this year. There's drive-by shootings going on all the time, and the media doesn't care because it doesn't fit their narrative about a racist society. They do not care about black-on-black violence because it doesn't advance their agenda of trying to take down what they see as a illegitimate power structure.
But why don't they care about these lives? You know, let's put this young boy up on the screen again, because we all remember, you know, a similarly aged Laquan McDonald, another tragic loss of life. It got an enormous amount of attention. This is another 15-year-old child, going to be a freshman in high school. He's never going to go to high school, this young man. And we hear nothing about him, except from his mom on her Facebook page, which is where we found this picture. So why don't people care as much about this young man as they do, and justifiably so, about Laquan McDonald?
I can only conclude that for the media and for the Democratic Party, white lives matter more than black lives, unless a white police officer is involved, in which case they get to trot out their completely phony narrative that blacks are under threat from white police officers. Joe Biden has said this in his criminal justice plan. We hear this from Elizabeth Warren. We hear this from Buttigieg, from Booker. It's incessant. I can also only conclude that they somehow think that this is just inevitable in black communities, that this is just what black people do and therefore is not worth their attention. That's not true. And proactive policing can stop this. You get the shooters off the streets. Unlike trying to find the needle in the haystack of these mass shooters, who are an infinitesimal number of the population in this country, we can predict with a good degree of accuracy who's going to be involved in the next drive-by shooting in an inner city, both the victim and the perpetrator. If the criminal justice system, if judges would get these people off the street, and if we could allow our police to go back to proactive policing, we could cut gun violence in this country by a massive amount.
Heather Mac Donald is very powerful. Thank you very much. And obviously, we want to decrease all of this violence across the board. And there are a number of people, coming out with more policy suggestions in terms of how to lower the other side of this, these crazy shooters who, lose their minds and go out and kill these innocent people. We don't want to forget these innocent children as well, and the numbers tell the story. Heather, thank you very much. Good to have you here tonight.
Thank you, Martha.